How did you think he did hitting targets?
I think he did what he had to do, which is effectively calm the markets after we've seen a pretty disastrous period over the last few months in British politics. It was steady as she goes, is what they're calling it in the papers today. So I think he'll be quite happy with the set of headlines that he's got, but with this type of thing, there's always devil in the detail, and I think we'll see that detailed analysis come out today and over the next few days, and we'll decide whether or not this has been an overwhelming success or whether there are some political pitfalls further down the line for the government.
I mean, I suppose the backdrop to it, I mean, when we're talking about the fall in living standards, they would try and explain that away as it would be a lot worse if it wasn't for this budget, presumably.
Yes, they will do. And, this is a budget that is, as we say, the highest tax burden since the end of the war. There is going to be tax breaks mainly for the wealthy with this pension changes and increasing the allowance on pensions. And I think for a lot of people, they'll still be worried about the cost of living. OK, the energy support for bills has been extended. OK, there is now an option for childcare provision. But is it enough to give people that sort of reassurance that actually their standard of living is going to rise on the back of this? I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, well, the early polling by Savanta yesterday, 49% were broadly in support of the budget, but 67% said exactly that they didn't think that enough was being done to help with the cost of living. But that being said, the childcare policy that was announced, really progressive. The Chancellor really keen to point out that 5 times the amount of money is being spent on that policy than on the pensions policy.
Yeah, and it's the generational divide that we're seeing in politics yet again. You've got the sort of wealthy pensioners, if you like, that are being benefiting from this budget, but you've also got millennials, younger people who might be looking for having children in the next few years. They're also benefiting from this childcare announcement. So, given the election is less than 18 months away, it's no surprise that the Chancellor is trying to appeal to each of those demographics to try and get some political support.
But once again, we're being lied to. This childcare thing, it's all dressed up to cover the fact that Brexit has caused big problems on the employment front. It's all well and good saying we'll get people back into work, but there were people in work before Brexit.
Yes, and this is the concern of the government, that we are going down the route of somewhere like Japan, where you've essentially got an ageing workforce and not many people who are economically active. And the result of that in this country is that we've got, yes, an ageing population, but also immigration has slowed, and therefore there are less people in the market to take up these jobs. So this is the government's effort to try and reheat the jobs market, whether it's young people back into work or old people back into work. But there are serious issues with productivity and the workforce.
Leon, you began the discussion by saying that, this budget did what it set out to do, which was to calm the markets. But interestingly, the markets closed yesterday in a worse state than they did after Kwasi Kwarteng's disastrous mini-budget, for a totally separate reason. Nothing to do with the budget. As the Chancellor was at the dispatch box yesterday, stock markets were going crazy. Credit Suisse in a lot of trouble. Bank of England having these emergency meetings last night. Is contagion happening following on from Silicon Valley Bank as well?
It seems to be. And when you look at the broader economic outlook, it's a mixed bag, because on one case you've got Jeremy Hunt saying that actually the economy is doing better than we thought it was going to be, that there is more money to play with. But then we look at the global situation and the issue with banks and those who are vulnerable, and we are pretty much on the precipice of something quite similar to what happened in 2008, where, that kick-started the global economic crash. And I think there is a fear that this budget may well become very insignificant if the Credit Suisse ordeal continues and goes further than it already is. Then there could even be more action need to be taken by the government to stop that.
So the Swiss Central Bank having to step in there. We'll see what sort of contagion exists, if any.